Did you hear about the zombie that was late to dinner? He got the cold shoulder. So hi everyone, today I'm going to be doing a review on the book The Iron Trial by Holly Black and Cassandra Clare. This is the first book in a new middle grade 5-book series. This book follows a boy named Callum. He comes from kind of a wizarding mage family. Mage. There's a villain that they call the Enemy who, whenever Callum was a baby, killed his mother. Because of this, Callum's dad is skeptical of the entire wizarding magic world afterwards, so he raises his son extremely guarded, and whenever his son turns 12, there's a thing they host called the Iron Trial, which is basically an audition to be chosen as an apprentice to a master who will train you how to use your magic. Callum's dad has told him for years that he needs to fail this test because he doesn't want his son to be involved with any sort of magic. So Callum goes and he does the test and he gets negative points because he does so badly, but ends up being chosen anyway. So it's about him and all the drama behind him going to the magisterium, I think it's called, the school. And then it deals with finding out his backstory some more, working out how to use magic, and drama about the Enemy. Does this lamp make the lighting better? Or not? I feel like no. I can't tell. We're keeping it on. So now into my review. So for this entire book, I was thinking, what does this remind me of? Then I realized, Finding Nemo. It's like that whole deal with the dad, like I don't want my son to go to school because Coral died. Finding Nemo spoilers. It just really reminded me of that. Let's talk about Callum for a second though. I loved Callum. Whenever Callum was an infant, he got a leg injury that made him so that he's had like gazillions of surgeries. He has plates and screws all down his leg. And that's like a physical thing that holds him back this entire book, and it's so refreshing to have characters like that. If you've read The Young Elites by Marie Lu, the main character in that book only has one eye, and I just think that is so cool how we're starting to have not disabled, but non-perfect characters as main characters. He was very sassy, and I love that. It always talks about how he has no friends back at home, and he's just getting into all sorts of trouble, and I love that in a main character, especially a boy in middle grade. That's just so relatable. Callum is just so reckless and even stupid at times. Like, he'll do a thing and then be like, well, I'll probably get in trouble for this thing, but I should do this thing, and it's just, it got so irritating. Literally, the reason that the book has its climax is because Callum did something dumb and his friends had to suffer the consequences of that, and it was Callum's fault that everything happened. And so there were several things that he does in this book that is just grinds my gears that he would be so dumb. And it wasn't even things that were like sacrificial or for the greater good. It was just him being reckless, and I feel like that could have been spared and we could have actually had events occur that weren't inspired by his stupidity or in spite of his stupidity. So I just love his whole backstory. Is it a prologue or chapter 1? It's the prologue. The prologue explains the thing that happens when he was a baby, and I just loved it. I had tears in my eyes at the prologue on page 5, so I put on Goodreads. I was like, this one's gonna be good. My main issue with this book is that I feel like we really needed more explanation behind things. This could be something that comes later on in the series, but I really would have liked more explanation of Callum's human life, kind of how the magisterium works. How does the magisterium find students? Because it mentions that sometimes they find magically inclined people, like, okay, I'm comparing it to Muggleborns, but that's not the point. How do they find those students, and how do they get them to come to the Iron Trial? Is magic hereditary? Do the parents of magical students know that their kids have these magic powers? How many people go to the magisterium? Is it even a school? Because technically it's apprentices and masters. Just a lot of these different specific things I just wish that we got a little more clarification on. But I love the world. I love the school they go to. It's an underground, tunnel-y type system. So neat. There's all these descriptions of caves and underwater rivers and all this beautiful imagery of just an underground world, and I loved it. Another really awesome thing is that the food there is all like lichen and moss and like tree bark and like disgusting mossy underground things, but then It's all, I don't know if it's done by magic or how it's done, but whenever you eat it, it has a flavor of a human food. So even though it looks like you're eating like mud, it's actually pudding. And I just think that was so clever. I also love how the levels are done because the first one, this is iron. So all year ones are iron, and then it goes, oh, I forgot the order, but there's like iron, bronze, copper, silver, gold, and there's like 5 different levels or grades, I suppose. The magic in this book is done by the elements. So there is air, water, fire, and earth, and then a 5th one called chaos, which is like the darker evil magic. I'm not really sure what it does, but it's kind of like maybe a form of possession, and that's the 5th type of magic that no one at the magisterium uses. I wish we got a little bit more description with the magic on how they use the powers, because a lot of the time it's just like, we were in this lesson learning how to levitate things, I did it, and it's like, I wish we could have gotten a little bit of imagery about how you utilize those powers. The 2 side characters were on the cover of this book right here. There's Erin, and then Tamara, I believe is how you pronounce her name. I liked them, but I feel like they were very underdeveloped. But in this book, they felt like acquaintances, and there were several times where Callum would say, oh, I've never had a friend like this, but then it would kind of make me confused because they don't really interact that often. They clash heads all the time, and they're like not the closest of friends, so it's kind of confusing because all the characters are just a little bit flat. We don't get too in-depth of backstories. All their emotions are just kind of all over the place, and I didn't know who I could relate to and who I could trust. The relationship between the friends was just kind of shallow. Like, they were only friends because they were put together in this apprentice group. Occasionally the dialogue in this book got kind of corny. I felt like it was trying a little bit too hard to be funny for younger readers. So that was just a little bit cheesy to me, but that might just be because I'm a 17-year-old reading a book meant for 12-year-olds. Toward the middle of this book, I started to feel like it was getting predictable. Like, it would drop hints and I would be like, oh, that was so obvious, now I know this is gonna happen. But then toward the end, I realized the things that I predicted weren't happening, and it took a couple of twists that I was like, oh, so it definitely kind of set me up to be like, oh, this is just, oh, I know that's gonna happen now, but it didn't happen. But overall, Cassandra Clare and Holly Black are just geniuses at creating well thought out worlds that make sense. They're very cleverly constructed, and I just cannot wait for the rest of this series. I'm definitely going to be continuing. I gave this book 4 stars, so even though I had some problems with it, I really in the end enjoyed it. If you're interested in this, I do recommend it. It's a really solid middle grade book, and I love the art especially. Every time I would read this, I would just stare at the cover. It's so nice. So that concludes my review. I hope you all enjoyed it, and I will see you all next time. Bye bye.